Man, Xbox and PlayStation just feels so weird these days, and I kind of want to just talk about it. There's no real purpose to this video. I'm not going to crack some secret code or anything like that, or point out one thing or another thing. It's just wanting to conversate about everything about Xbox and PlayStation. This entire generation has just felt so awkward for both brands. I mean, you have the Xbox side of things with the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. The constant amount of delays, and as we've seen over the last year or so, couple years, just a lot of cancellations. You know, of course, we had the big one recently with Perfect Dark, Everwild, and now there's the new reports as of this week that Contraband is canceled, which that makes sense. That was revealed in one quick splash shot 5 years ago or whatever, and we've never even heard about the game since. So, I mean, it makes sense. Everwild, makes sense because of the aggressively bad development that thing has gone through. Perfect Dark was kind of a shock, but after hearing more about it, maybe not so much. But I mean, everything going on the Xbox side of things with the constant delays, the constant cancellations, the Xbox Series S, which is me and the boys have talked about in Gamesthetic, a really great piece of tech for the consumer. Not a great piece of tech for the industry, because all that's done is harm the Xbox, where we've seen games get delayed from an Xbox release because of optimizing, because you have to optimize it for the Series X and the Series S both. There is no Series S and Series X versions for games. So it's caused a constant issue with various games having to get pushed back with the Xbox because of that S. Then we flip over to the PlayStation side of things, where it has gone into such a massive live service push throughout this generation, and well, we've seen exactly how that's gone with the historical failure that was Concord, all these other projects that have been canceled, like Last of Us Factions, that Spider-Man: The Great Web, a lot of other projects that never even saw the light of day, and we just knew that it was a thing. We see Sony purchase Bungie, and then everything with Bungie, where it's the marathon situation. Destiny is great expansion, bad expansion, great expansion, bad expansion, and it's just been a very weird generation, to say the least, right? Especially when you also look at the PlayStation side, and it's I feel like now we are 5 years after this console came out, and I still feel like we're just getting past the point of the bridge from PS4 to PS5, and this is something that we should have already well been past in previous generations. I think it was actually just a few months ago we reported on Gamesthetic that for the first time since its launch, PlayStation 5 had more monthly users than the PS4, which that kind of goes to show what I'm referring to of this, we've been in this awkward bridge period from one console to the next, hence a big, fumbling for a little while with PS4, PS5 versions. I know Horizon Forbidden West had a big debacle. And again, just everything about this generation just feels so weird and off. And then this past week, we had Genki, I believe who it was, translate some stuff from a PlayStation earnings call where someone at PlayStation, I don't know if it was the CEO or it's obviously someone of high standards, was talking about how they're moving away from a hardware-centric model and openly admitting that, yes, the live service push has not gone swimmingly at all, which clearly, but still kind of focusing on that. And to an extent, you can't blame Sony for that, because it is a smart business play, right? Come up with a great live service game like a Fortnite or Apex or whatever that just generates revenue. The business idea, it's not a bad idea, but it does suck for us as PlayStation fans that I know everyone I've ever met pretty much buys the PlayStation in previous generations or whatever. That's their single player console, while let's say a couple generations back, 360 for example, that was the multiplayer console. PS3 was the single player console, and it's even now, it's even me with my PS5, that is my single player console. All the games that are single player narrative driven games, I'm usually buying for the PlayStation 5. And I know not everyone's like that, obviously. People are playing COD and Madden, NBA, all the sports games, and other shooters gamers and stuff. Like I know that's not everybody, but it's like it does suck for us who are here for Sony's exclusives. Because obviously when you look at the landscape of the three major companies, you know, Xbox has the weakest exclusives, Sony the second, and Nintendo the best. And I'm going to stand by that. You know, anyone who does disagree that Nintendo is the strongest IPs, up front, that's just, I think you're delusional. They are very protective of their IPs for a reason, and it's because they are good IPs that drive console sales. But Sony is right there with them. I'm not disrespecting Sony from Nintendo. I mean, when you have stuff like God of War, Uncharted, while I'm not a fan, Last of Us, Horizon, which has really popped off, Insomniac, Spider-Man, now Astro is really starting to take off and blossom into his own IP that's not just like fun little tutorial games or whatever. I mean, the list goes on for PlayStation of the kind of IPs they bring to the table. So it's like, you know, we want those single player narrative experiences, right? Especially when you look at like the kind of games that Sony puts out that are like Game of the Year nominated or winning type games, like the God of War 2018 Ragnarok, the Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei this year is probably going to be nominated. Both Spider-Mans were nominated. Horizons have been nominated. Last of Us has won. Last of Us has been nominated, etc. Like, I mean, you look at those and you have a deeper catalog as well with the Jack, the Ratchet, the Sly, etc. It's like we have such a deep catalog of first party exclusives. It's like, man, we would love to have those and drive that narrative, but you know, they're focusing away from, you know, or talking about going away from that hardware centric model to more focusing on like the software side of the business. We've seen recently how like Helldivers, for example, is going over to Xbox. There is more rumored PlayStation games that are going to be going to multi-platform as well. They're hiring a new position over at Sony to help drive the multi-platform mindset, which the multi-platform element of things, you know, the Xbox has done, because Xbox just basically wants people to play their games. Xbox doesn't publish bad games for the most part. It's just Xbox fumbles whenever it comes to like the hardware side of things in terms of how they're promoting it, because obviously the Series X is a great piece of hardware and the Series S is a great piece of hardware for what it is, but again, Series S bad for the industry. Xbox One, not a bad console. The marketing behind it was horrendous, god awful for the time that it was. And let's not forget the famous, well, you know, if the Xbox One's not going to work for you, we have another console you can get, the Xbox 360, and that basically killed the Xbox One. Like, there's obviously a list of problems on the Xbox side, but them going to this more multi-platform mindset is to get people to play the games they have publishing that are really good games. And it's working, especially when you look on the PlayStation side of things and you see like top sellers of the month pretty much throughout most this year include Xbox, Microsoft published games, just to give you an example. So it's like both branding companies kind of going this more multi-platform route. Xbox fully admitting defeat in the console wars, which at this point, as they should, and Sony just like, well, we won, let's just start going multi-plat as well, and possibly going away from a hardware-centric model. And I don't think that's going to be immediate. We'll see a PS6. We'll probably see a PS6 handheld variant of some capacity. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but you know, that is the kind of the direction that they're going, which just kind of sucks, because it's like, you know, we're here halfway through this generation, not even halfway, we're like over 50% way through the generation. And it's like, it doesn't feel like the generation ever really took off, because we've been in that weird bridge phase. We've seen all these constant problems in the gaming industry with layoffs, delays, cancellations, etc. So it's like, again, like I said at the beginning, this generation, Xbox and Sony just feel so weird. This generation has been so odd. It's not going to be one that I think, like me and the boys here at Gamesthetic, are going to look back at fondly. I think it's going to be one that we're just going to look back on like, I cannot believe a lot of the stuff happened in that generation. Because this generation has just been really odd with how both companies have taken different approaches to things, and it sucks because, like, you know, I wouldn't say I lean one way or the other. You know, I definitely feel like I probably play a lot more Xbox Series these days, just simply because of third parties. I'm still a physical collector, so I like to buy my physical third party games for the Xbox, and obviously Sony with their deep first party catalog, I'm usually buying their physical games for all their first party games. I just like to have stuff on my shelf. So I do play a lot of Xbox, but I also play a lot of PlayStation. I play a lot of Switch, and now I'm playing a lot of Switch too. Like When it comes to Xbox and Sony, I've had different points in my life where I'm playing more one than the other. I would say personally, I've always been a Nintendo guy first, because Nintendo, like their consoles, for their consoles, it's like their exclusives are going to drive me to buy the console. Pokemon and Zelda, that's all you got to have, and I'm buying the console. And nowadays, I'd probably say Fire Emblem fits into that category as well. And I think something with Nintendo is, you know, I understand that people like to meme on them for being an incredibly greedy company. Every company is greedy, and Nintendo definitely has their fair share of greed behind them with how they re-release stuff and, you know, how they price certain things. You know, of course, let's keep in mind, they're the ones who bumped up to the $80 price tag. That Mario Kart World did not need to do. I mean, it's a very fun game. I've had fun with it. Does not warrant $80 price tag. I stand by that. If you want a full breakdown on that, please just go listen to Gamesthetic and, you know, any videos I've got up about Mario Kart World where I kind of detail that more. You know, Nintendo has their own level of greed. You look at this, you look at the accessories. You know, we just had a price increase recently for the Switch One line, the Switch family. You know, like the OLED gets now $400, Switch Lite $230, OG Switch is what I think $350 around there. I can't remember. You know, so it's like, yeah, you know, which that obviously ties into market conditions and everything going on in the world. But, you know, yeah, Nintendo has their own fair share of things that, you know, justifiably so, people need to complain about. You know, but Nintendo also just really exists in their own lane, man. They're not really here to compete. They're just here to do their thing. And that's one element about it that just feels like, okay, well, that's just still kind of fun. It feels just fun over at Nintendo, where you can like look forward to, you know, games coming out, because like they're not competing. They're just existing in their own lane. And even though that is the case, you know, they're not exempt from what I'm saying about this generation, because obviously we have seen price increases from Nintendo, like with the Mario Kart World and some recent accessories and consoles and everything, you know, plus just how they've kind of taken the approach for certain things. So it's like, you know, everything about this current generation that we've been a part of, it just really does feel like, man, this is going to be wild to look back on 10 years from now. I hope the next generation is going to be a lot better for us, you know, and don't get me wrong, we've had amazing games this generation, right? You know, from these, you know, from these branding companies, like not talking third parties here, like directly from Sony and Xbox, we have had some amazing games this generation. But it's like, I wouldn't say we've had as many amazing games as, let's say, the last generation, and especially the generation before that. You know, we've continued to see, you know, dev time increase, and, you know, dev cost, of course, is obviously a big one, where, you know, you have games reaching the 400 million mark, and it's just like, oh my Lord. And it's just like, no wonder stuff's, you know, failing and flopping, because how are you ever going to turn a profit? So, you know, everything about, like, again, for the 17th time this video, because I had no organization going into this. I just want to talk about it after seeing the hardware-centric news and the contraband delay stuff. Everything about this generation, it just feels odd. And honestly, I'm just ready for this generation to be done. You know, I know they're talking like 2027 or 2028. I mean, here's something else to think about. Like, I'm ready for the generation to be done, but at the same time, let's say the hardware we have right now, we don't even need to move on to the next generation, because honestly, there's been no games come out that has pushed the current hardware to the limits. PS5 Pro is one of the most useless pieces of tech on the gaming market. I mean, it just is. If you're a diehard PlayStation guy and that's all you play, multiplayer and single player, then yeah, then you are the target audience for that. Obviously, get it if that's your only console. That's a good purchase for you. But for a majority of gamers, that thing is a waste of space and a waste of money, because the PS5 has not been pushed to its limits. The Xbox Series X has not been pushed to its limits. I think we could go all the way to 2030 with the current generation and still be fine. Like, you know, at least in my opinion. I mean, I feel like Xbox would probably suffer quite a bit because of the Series S, and I feel like they should probably get another console out the door like next year or 2027. But like PlayStation, we could legit rock the PS5 until 2030 and be fine. But, you know, we're going to get the PS6 in like probably 27 or 28. And yeah, and even though we could run the hardware all the way to 2030, I'm ready to move on. Let's get the PS6. Let's get this next Xbox. It's going to be like a PC in a console-friendly shell, like a Trojan horse situation to get console gamers into the PC space, because it's obviously where they're heading. Whatever, guys. Let's go ahead and get there. I want to be done with this generation. This generation just feels icky, is a way to put it. And it's probably going to still feel icky next generation. It is what it is. But I don't know. I'm ready for it to be over. what about you? Let me know your thoughts on everything. Let me know your thoughts on the contraband thing, everything going on with Xbox and PlayStation, and just kind of how do you feel about the generation? Like this, again, this is just my opinion. I don't think anything I said in this video is hard, like this is facts. You have to listen to me. It's just an opinion. I just wanted to talk. You know, we didn't have Gamesthetic this week, so I just wanted to get on here and chat about something. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts on everything going on with this generation. How do you feel about it? Do you kind of feel the same way? Do you think this generation is a lot better than previous generations for reasons X, Y, and Z? You know, that I acknowledge the X, Y, and Z, but it's just everything else. It's like, yeah, it kind of sucks. But yeah, if you could, though, also subscribe to the channel, be a friend, tell a friend, check out Gamesthetic. We're usually live every single Saturday, and I'd appreciate that extra support. Until next time, guys, have a good one. Bye.